Okay. Good morning. Okay. I want to spend some time this morning and try to expand on something that I think I just mentioned in passing a few weeks ago, but I just felt this week that we should spend a little time on this and truly try to really understand it a little bit. All right. Um, okay. When God created Adam and Eve and He put them in the garden, ta-da! He said that all the things that He created, the fruit of all the trees, were good for them. They're good things for them to eat, except tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? And that on the day that they ate of the fruit of the tree of good and the knowledge of good and evil, that they would surely die. And that's a very interesting thing because obviously they ended up eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they did not, at least in the way that we would typically understand it, die, in the sense that their hearts did not stop beating on that day. And so, how do we understand this? Well, if you open up your Genesis commentaries, in which I'm sure you have a great collection of, there are several explanations that are typically offered. Number one, that they died a spiritual death, which is that like inside they're like, oh, which that's probably true. The second is that Adam died just under 1,000 years later, and a day is 1,000 years with the Lord. You all know that, and so the Lord wasn't talking about a literal day; He was talking about the 1,000-year kind of day. And so Adam did in fact die, in that day. And those are two very convenient explanations. Very good, actually. I wish I'd thought of them myself. They're very, very good. Very good. There's a third explanation here, which is they did die, but they didn't die in the sense of you not breathing anymore, your heart stopped beating, because that's not the sense, that's not what death means to God. So in Deuteronomy chapter 30, Deuteronomy is very interesting. Deuteronomy is essentially a summary of Exodus, Numbers, and Leviticus, told by Moses. Right, Moses is recounting the journey of the Israelites, is recounting the things that God has told him. And Deuteronomy 30 is very near the end of the book. And there's a few verses here that I want to catch, and then we're going to move further up and think about what Moses talked about. Okay, starting in verse 11. For this commandment I command you today is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven that you should say, who shall ascend to heaven for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. But the word is very near to you. It is in your mouth and is in your heart, so that you can do it. I love what Moses says, because so often we are looking at ourselves and thinking that, well, if I just knew more, like, if a prophet would speak to me some more, or maybe there's another book to read, maybe there's another sermon to listen to, maybe the truth is actually in India, or in Africa, or in Canada. Nobody ever, I'm just kidding. um, in Canada or wherever. But Moses said, no, it's not, and that those are just excuses, right? But he said the word is very near to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart, so that you can do it, right? No excuses. 15, see, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil. And if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I command you today, by loving the Lord your God, by walking in his ways and by keeping his commandments and his rules and his statutes and his rules, then you shall live and multiply. And the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to take possession of it. But if your heart turns away and you do not hear, or are drawn away to worship other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall surely perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are going over the Jordan to enter and to possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life, that you and your offspring may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and holding fast to him. For he is your life and length of days, that you may dwell in the land that the Lord has sworn to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, to give to them. And what is Moses saying? Moses is saying that life and death is not just that, like, you breathe or you don't breathe, that your heart beats or your heart doesn't beat. This is not life and death in the concept of the way that God is thinking about it. That life is a dynamic of being alive. It's a certain way in which you live, and death is also a certain way in which you live. That these are expressions and experiences that we have in this life. And just because you are a Christian and you think that you're going to heaven does not mean that you live. Do you know? So skip up a few chapters and let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. In Deuteronomy chapter 28, God sets before them the signs of life and the signs of death. And he calls them, what your Bible calls them, the blessings for obedience and the curses for disobedience. But what really Moses is saying is that, like, when you experience the blessings of obedience, you will know that you are living in something. And when you experience the curses of disobedience, like, that is a type of death that though you breathe, you're manifesting death. Um, Here we go. All right. Love to be controversial. Okay. All right. If you, verse 1, and if you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, this is Deuteronomy 28, being careful to do all his commandments that I command you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you, if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. Blessed shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your ground, and the fruit of your cattle, and the increase of your herds, and the young of your flock. Blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Blessed shall you be when you go come in, and blessed shall you be when you go out. Okay, one of the things that you'll notice when the Bible talks about life is that there are two manifestations of it. The first is that the life of God, the blessings of God, manifests in you personally, in your body, in your life, in just your personal experience of the things going on around you. And the second way in which it manifests is in the land. And there are two things that God blesses and two things that God curses. God blesses people and God blesses land. And God curses people and God curses land. And you're going to see both of these things expressed. And we, in our life, in our experience, we experience the dynamics of both, which is to say that if you go work for a company that is profitable and doing really well, you might make a lot of money even though you don't contribute a lot to that company. At the same time, if you go work for a company that is doing very poorly, about to go bankrupt, you may personally be doing very well, but you're not going to make a lot of money because there's no money for you to get. Does that make any sense? You're affected by both, actually, your personal dynamic and also the dynamic of the environment or the system that you are part of. In speaking about blessings, it's the same way. There's a blessing upon you individually as a person, which is really powerful, really awesome. You experience that. There's also a blessing of the system around you, of sort of all the things that are going on around you. Okay, and the blessings for obedience that God was instructing the people of Israel is that if they would, as a people, but especially if the king and their leaders would walk in the ways of righteousness, that not only would the people individually, by seeking the Lord by obedience, experience life in them, but the land itself would bear life for everybody living there, regardless of just really regardless of anything. And everybody within the borders would experience that life power of God. God has called us to both those things. And I'm not going to talk about government and all that stuff today because, well, that would be a whole thing. But just understand that as you're reading this, that God he talks about both like very important. Okay, so think about the things that we just read and the signs of life. Okay, and all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. And what is Moses saying? I'm about to give you a list, and you should experience everything in this list if you're living in the life of God. And again, as I said, you're also affected by like the land that you are in. So don't look at somebody else and be like, well, you're not being blessed in that area, so you must be dead. Because they're impacted by other things too. And also because reasons. Okay, so don't be too quick to diagnose. But nevertheless, like these are the things that we expect, right? Okay. Blessed shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the field. That's very interesting. So what that means is that what God is saying is that there is a rising tide lifts all boats kind of dynamic. Where, in this country, people talk so often about inequality and how the billionaires are getting rich and the poor are being like, or whatever, class warfare. And the very first thing that Moses says is that the life of God touches everything that is in its general proximity. Do you know that when Jesus, I want to talk about healing a little bit later, because that's one of the primary ways in which the life of God is manifest. But it says the people actually were crowding Jesus to touch him because power will go out of him to heal them indiscriminately. Hold on. That's the extraordinary thing. It was indiscriminate. Everybody that got near Jesus and touched him got healed. You have to understand this. And the reason you have to understand this is because it comports with what Moses was teaching the people about life in Deuteronomy chapter 28. You're going to be blessed in the city. You're going to be blessed in the field, which means that it's not a personal evaluation of yourself. Are you right with God today? You're in the city, you're in the field, you're somewhere between. You're going to experience that uplifting life of God. Does that make any sense? Okay. And this is really remarkable. Um, there are a few times in which it's mentioned, where not many times where it's mentioned, but where Jesus going to a village and like the people were crowding, they all wanted to touch him because power was coming out of him to heal them all. And it says this actually a few different times that Jesus healed everybody that was sick. Everybody that came near to about, and that's incredible because that's indiscriminate life. Like it's everything is living, like in his presence around him. Guys, everything is living like in his presence around him. Do you know? If we had a healing meeting and five people got healed and three people didn't, first of all, we'd be like, greatest revival ever. Second of all, we'd be like, there must be something wrong with those three people. Around Jesus, everybody got healed. Everybody experienced the life of God. Does that make any sense? Principle number one: blessed will you be in the city, blessed will you be in the field, right? Number two, blessed shall the fruit of your womb, shall be the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your ground, and the fruit of your cattle, and the increase of your herds, and the young of your flock. What he's saying is, this is obvious, is that everything that you produce and everything that you steward will bear good fruits. And that fruit does not always mean multiplication, but what he's saying is that your children will be blessed. The literally the apples that fall off your tree are juicier and bigger than the apples that fall off that guy's tree. Do you know that when your cows give birth, that you get wagyu instead of whatever the alternatives. I'm just kidding. Wagyu is fattening. You don't want like if you. Anyways, okay. The fat belongs to the Lord. Okay, here, let's keep going there. Um, Blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. And I really love this. Blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Your basket is the place where you store that which you already have. Okay. Um, do you remember in the story of the talents that three men got three different degrees of talents? The first one did really well, made five more, and the Lord said, "You're awesome, fantastic." The second one made two more. The Lord said, "Great." And the last one, um, he was too scared to go and try to do something with it. And the master said to him, "Well, you should have at least put it in the bank so that I would have earned my interest. But you were too scared to do anything." Do you remember that? Okay, do you remember that? So there's something about even the things. There are things that you are using. There are things that you are storing. Not us. We like to give it all away. But I mean, I'm not going to even. Okay. Anyways, it's just different day, different time. But in your basket, in the place where you store that in that place, that the things that you have stored become blessed. And that as they become stored, now, how odd would it be that you go to, um, I don't know where you guys shop, Whole Foods, perhaps? I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm Trader Joe's. Okay, so you go to Key Food, right? And you get four apples, and by the time you get home, it's six apples. You would be like, "This is weird." That's the life of God, and because these things are so rarely experienced, they're so rarely experienced. You make you get paid, whatever, $4,000 a month from your job, but it hits your bank account as $5,000. You get there the next month and it's six. Like you're like, like what is going on here? You get random checks like this is. We think that this is we never experience it. It would never happen. That's ridiculous. How could that possibly be? Okay, this is the life of God. Blessed will be your basket. That's a bizarre blessing. Frankly, let's be honest, that's a bizarre blessing. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a bizarre blessing. If it said you'll be a little bit better at math than everybody, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I can receive that. I receive that. That's not what it says. It said, blessed will be your basket, the place where you store things that will be blessed. And then it says, blessed will be your kneading bowl. Do you know what your kneading bowl is? Okay, ABC will tell you what your kneading bowl is. Your kneading bowl is the place where you make bread. The process by which you create that which you consume, like that will be blessed. So these are frankly, honestly, they're unusual blessings. Sometimes we just read this and we're just like, but then if you think about what the Lord has promised to bring to life, it's bizarre. Blessed shall you be when you go come in. Blessed shall you be when you go out, right? And then all the obvious stuff. The Lord will cause your enemies to rise up against you to be defeated before you. Yeah. They shall come out against you one way and flee before you seven ways. Yeah, we love that. And the Lord command the blessing on you in your barns and in all that you undertake. In your barns, again, the things that you have, and in all that you undertake, the things that you're working towards. All the things that you labor towards, all those things will be blessed. If your lab, when you go work in a lab, that lab better publish more paper, not more. Who needs actually slop? We don't need more slop. Better papers, you know? And he will bless you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. The Lord will establish you as a people holy to himself, as he has sworn to you, if you keep the commandments of the Lord and walk in his ways. And all the people of the earth shall see that you're called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of you. And the Lord will make you. How many Christians do you know who everybody around them is scared of them because they're so blessed in their life? Mm, zero. Okay. And it's because the life of God, we are not walking in it. Let's keep going. Da, da, da. And the Lord will make you abound in prosperity, 11, in the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your livestock, and the fruit of your ground, within the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to give you. And the Lord will open to you his good treasury, the heavens, to give you rain in your land in its season, to bless all the work of your hands. And you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. This is, again, very interesting, but we're going to say that for another day. And the Lord will make you the head and not the tail. You shall only, that is Charismatic's favorite verse right there. And you shall only go up and not down, right? Am I right? Am I right? Okay. And if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, being careful to do them, and if you do not turn aside from any of the words I command you today, to the right or to the left, to go after other gods or to serve them. Okay. This is very important. And the reason this is very important is because God has promised that in very many different areas of your life, that if you will do what he asked you to do, and if you will do it right, that you will be blessed and that you will experience life. This is life. Life is not just breathing. How many of you know that? Life is not just breathing. Life is an experience in which the power of God, and here I'm not talking about sort of revival stuff, I'm talking about the creative life force of God. The rivers of life are flowing in and through you and all around you. And that everything you do and everything you touch and everywhere you look and everybody in proximity to you is being lifted up in that way. And I know that most of us are not experiencing this in a very dramatic fashion, but you need to first believe it before you can experience it. You need to orient yourself in that direction so that your life is going that direction, okay? And then in verse 15, 14 verses about obedience, many, many, many more verses, like 3 times as many verses about disobedience. And here's the reason. It's because when you experience these, at least this is what I really, this is what I believe. I don't believe that the signs of death being like so many times longer than the signs of life is because God wants you to die. Like, it's not. It's not that. It's because when things are going wrong in your life, you need to properly diagnose what is going wrong. Do you understand? And if you believe that the white people are oppressing you, or if you believe that nobody will give you a chance, or if you believe that your boss is whatever, or if you believe that the problem is with your parents or with your siblings, you're never going to get over it. It's not going to go anywhere. And the reason that God says, here's a huge list of what happens when you disobey, is that when those things begin to occur in your life, that you would see and you would turn, so then you could experience life and not death. Do you know? And then, like, blame the system is literally the worst answer, like, for this stuff, because let's just okay, we'll just read it. Okay, all right. 15. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord your God, or be careful to do all his commandments, his statutes that I command you today, then all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. And that phrase, I want to come back to later, okay? They'll come upon you and overtake you. Okay. If death just means a moment in which like you stop, like there would not need to be this. Once it has overcome you, it is necessarily overtaking you. Does that make any sense? If death is a bullet, then once it comes upon you, it is necessarily overtaking you. But because death is not a bullet, God says there's 2 things that are going to happen to you. It's going to come to you, and then if you will allow it to stay there, then eventually it will defeat you, right? Cursed shall you be in the city, and cursed shall you be in the field. Cursed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Cursed shall be the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground, the increase of your herds and the young of your flock. Cursed shall be you when you go out. Cursed shall be you when you come in. Okay, that paragraph right there, in those few verses, he summarized all the blessings that are above. All the significant things that we just read that you're going to get in terms of life, he just said, you're going to, all those things wipe out. Okay? And that's only the beginning of this section. And the Lord will send on you curses, confusion, frustration in all that you undertake to do, until you are destroyed and perish quickly on account of the evil of your deeds, because you have forsaken me. Think about this: confusion and frustration in all that you undertake to do. Ah, we would not have really thought that these are the fruit of disobedience to the Lord. Confusion and frustration. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know what is right. I don't know what God wants me. Oh, frustration. Oh, why does nothing ever happen? This is the outcome of a life that is not aligned to the Lord. Very interesting, right? Only to Emily. And the Lord will make the pestilence stick to you until he has consumed you off the land, until you that you're entering to take possession of it. That's really interesting. God will make the pestilence. Pestilence are plagues and diseases, sicknesses. And God said they will stick to you. You will not be able to get rid of them until it consumes you and drives you away from the area in which God has called you. And the Lord will strike you with wasting disease and with fever, with inflammation, with fiery heat, with drought, and with blight, and with mildew. Do you see? Okay, there's two types of things here. There's diseases for the land, which is the drought, the blight, and the mildew. And there's diseases for the human, which is wasting disease, fever, inflammation, fiery heat, drought. Or sorry, did you see? There's disease for both. And and they will pursue you until you perish. And the heavens over your head will be bronze, and the earth under you shall be iron, and the Lord will make the rain of your land powder. From heaven dust shall come down on you until you are destroyed. The Lord shall cause you to be defeated for your enemies. And you shall go out one way against them and flee seven ways before them, and you shall be a horror to all the kingdoms of the earth. And your dead body shall be food for birds of the air and the birds, beasts of the sea. There shall be no one to frighten you away. The Lord will strike you with the boils of Egypt, with tumors and scabs and itch, of which you cannot be healed. Very interesting that you will be struck with diseases like the diseases of the Egyptians, and you will not be able to be healed from them. And the Lord will strike you with madness, blindness, confusion of mind, and you shall grope at noonday as a blind grope in darkness, and you shall not prosper in your ways. You shall only be oppressed and robbed continually, and there shall be nobody to help you. You shall betroth a wife, another man will ravish her. You shall build a house, you will not dwell in it. You shall plant a vineyard, you will not enjoy its fruit. Your oxen will be slaughtered before your eyes, you will not eat any of it. Your donkey shall be seized before your face, shall not be restored to you. Your sheep shall be given to your enemies, shall not be one to help you. Your sons and your daughters shall be given to another people. While your eyes look on, the fall with longing for them all day long. Your young people will be sent to a foreign land, given away. And this obviously, they experience this taken captive, but also that your sons and daughters could be sent to fight foreign wars, and like they'll die there, and you'll never see them, and your heart will fail with longing for them. Like, I mean, this country's experienced that. And this is very interesting. And a nation that you have not known shall eat of the fruit of your ground and of your labors. Everything you produce shall be exported somewhere else. You will not enjoy it. And you shall be only oppressed and crushed continually, so that you are driven mad by the sight that your eyes see. And the Lord will strike you on the knees and the legs with grievous boils of which you cannot be healed, from the sole of your foot to the crown of your head. Okay. It keeps going, actually. And it talks about social injustice and social unrest and disturbance of every sort, and the and total despair and the falling apart of every type of society. It keeps going. And all of this is death, even though nobody has technically died. Interesting, right? Okay. This is what is interesting. What is also interesting is that God alone has life. And the role that he has played and that he calls us to play is to be those that bring life. Life, though, not meaning that, like, well, they're already breathing. Why do they need? No, life in a completely different sense. When you read the Gospels, one of the things that you will be confronted with is the fact that almost everywhere Jesus goes, Jesus heals. The fact that Jesus heals is talked about, I mean, no less than 60 times in the Gospels. Everywhere Jesus goes, Jesus heals. And it's almost always the first miracle that he does. Remember when he sent them out? Tell them the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And then heal the sick, right? Cleanse lepers, raise the dead. I know we're out of order, but like I just want to emphasize heal the sick first. Heal sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons. Why? Because this is the life of God, and it's come upon you. And of course, the life also includes economic prosperity and peace and joy and all those other things. But firstly, like it's the life of God that has come upon you. The message of the kingdom, the ministry of the kingdom is not just about conversion, about you believe this, now you believe this. That's not the point. The point is that you experience what differentiates Christianity from everything else. It's not philosophical, although I do believe that philosophically, but that's not the point. The point is that Jesus is not making a theological argument to people that, like, listen, like, my teachings are better theologically than the things you knew before, so believe me. That's not the point. When he came into an area, he exposed the death of the area. The people that are dying know that they're dying. Like, it's not, the death in the area, and he brought life into it. For people that need physical healing, life, of course, is physical healing, but there's so much more to it. Do you remember the four friends that lowered the man down from the roof because he was lame? Jesus looked at him and said, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Those of us who are charismatic would expect him to say, "Son, get up and walk." But that's not what he did. He said, "Son, your sins forgiven," because he understands that life is bigger than just physical wellness. There's something more to it than that. But he brings physical wellness along with every other form of life because he is life. And you and I, as his messengers, like, that's the point. Do you know? Everywhere you go, you bring the life of God into that situation that you are going into. Matthew chapter 11, John the Baptist, I love this chapter. You guys know I love this chapter. John the Baptist is in prison because of Herod and the whole thing, right? Okay. And being in prison and being stuck in prison, John the Baptist is not actually sure that what he heard from God was real. I don't know if you've ever had that moment where you really felt like years ago that the Lord had put something in your heart, but then the years go by and things don't work out as well as the way that you expected them to work out. And you begin to doubt, right? Whether this is God, that's God, it's not God. And so he sends messengers to ask Jesus, are you the one? Or, like, did John miss it? Like, did we miss it? Is there somebody else? And Jesus answered him. He said, "Go and tell John what you see and what you hear and what you see. What you hear and what you see. The testimonies that are floating in your ears and the things that you've witnessed with your own eyes." What did he say to him? The blind receive their sight and the lame walk. Lepers are cleansed and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up, and the poor have the good news preached to them. What is he saying? He's saying that the life of the kingdom is coming upon you. And if you cannot tell that that is the work of God, the fact that there is life that is coming into a situation is more profound proof that something is God than a prophetic word that has been spoken. You really have to get this. Without life, it's not God. And it does not matter how many prophets you have, how many angels you have. Without life, it's not God. Because out of God comes life. Always does. Everywhere he goes, everything creates. Have you noticed? I'm sure you have because you've been living on planet Earth for a while now. Have you ever noticed that everything that God created has life built into it? Like plant, for instance. If you knock it over, it'll come right back up. you know? Or a starfish. If you cut off one of its legs, it'll grow out again. Or you. Like, you may have gotten that cold, but you didn't think to yourself, "Oh, I got a cold. Woe is me." Like, you're just like, I'm gonna go rest, and a few days from now, I'm gonna be better. Do you understand? Like, that's life. There's a certain something in you, and we'll go ahead and call it healing, but there's a certain healing is a facet of life, of the life of God, where you may have been like, boom, but there's something in you that just comes back, right? You ever go out to the gym and work out way too hard, Joanne? And just kidding. I know that all of you work out religiously. Not religiously. Religiously is we don't. Anyways, okay. So you ever notice that, like, but you didn't think to yourself, "I'm gonna die now. I'm so tired." You don't think that to yourself, do you? You think, "I'm gonna eat a big burger or not, depending on if you like burgers or not, and I'm gonna go take a nap, and then I'm gonna be all good." Does that make any sense? Because it's not natural to think to yourself, "Oh, this is the end of me," because that's not what happens to the things that God creates. And the things that God creates, even when they're damaged, bruised, broken, tired, worn out, they always come back because that's life. And life is something that renews you, that refreshes you, that strengthens you, that keeps you going. It's not defeated just because something goes wrong. It just keeps going. Like, it just keeps going. It keeps going. In fact, people that don't have this sometimes get frustrated at people that do have this. It's like, why are you so optimistic? Don't you know that everything is going horribly? Like, it's the life of God that, like, the joy inside of you cannot be suppressed just because something has gone wrong. That, like, your hope in Him is not suppressed just because something is going wrong. And that is the life of God. And the death of God is where a thousand things go right, and you always notice that one thing that is not perfect, and you'd be like, "Oh, this is the end." Like, bro, did you not see that? Like, God did so many other things, and be like, oh no, but that one, it's just it's something in man. No, God describes it as is a difference because between obedience and disobedience. There are way too many verses, way too many things for us to, for times in the Bible where this comes into play for us to talk about all of it. But we'll just we'll try to hit a few. Okay, in Second Corinthians chapter 4, Paul says this about himself. We read this often. You're familiar with it, but here we go. Verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God, not to us. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Do you really like think about this and love this? We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. The power of his life. You are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Have you ever played with one of those foam balls that always returns to its original size no matter what you do to it? Like its original shape, no matter what you do to it? You don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, these are kids' toys. Like, like you can smush it, you can because there's a lot of air and there's this foam that is elastic, but like you can smush it, you can stick it in your you can like, but it also returns to its original size. And it's got like there's something about that in Paul. So we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Like we can suffer all sorts of things, but we just get back to where we were. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. Perplexed is a state of mind where you don't understand anything. I mean, you remember in Deuteronomy chapter 28, it said that you were confused and you're frustrated. Do you remember? And there are some people that whenever anything does not make sense, they go to confusion and frustration. Paul says this about himself. He says, we are perplexed. We don't understand what's going on. But he says, but not driven at all to despair. That like nothing makes sense. And yet great hope is constantly flowing inside of us. Oh, I love it. Okay. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. It's pretty annoying to strike something down and it not be destroyed. Do you know? Like one of the I told you about those fun balls. Like it's just like it's just if it's not destroyed, just skip it. And that's God. That's God. And that's the power of God. That is the power of God that is flowing through them. You know? The life of God is that thing that keeps going, that keeps living, that keeps growing, that keeps abounding. You can take all of his money, more will come. You can take all of his people, more will come. Take all his friends, more will come. Do you understand? Like there's something in God. There's a boundless energy, a boundless supply, a boundless provision that no man can take from you. And living in that and believing, being a big believer in that, and just staying the course, keeping your life in the midst of that is really the aim of every Christian. When you understand this principle and you go through life with a discerning eye, you'll very quickly see the things that give life and the things that do not give life. Big, pretty religious programs do not give life. Religion itself does not give life, which is why Jesus, do you remember in Matthew 23, seven woes upon the Pharisees? And one of them, which is, I have to be honest, I think this is my favorite. So one of them, he says, you are whitewashed tombs. Outwardly, you appear beautiful, but inside, you're full of dead people's bones. Like, do you remember that? And Jesus says this, I love this. He compares. This is, by the way, the big. These are the big names of religion in his day, right? Like, and he says, you guys are whitewashed tombs. On the outside, you look really pretty, but on the inside, you're all dead. And there's nothing in you that gives life to anyone. And people under your control, they just slowly die underneath, even though they're like, oh yeah, we go to mass every week. This is not about criticizing Catholics, but it's just, but do you understand? Like, religion does not give anybody life. Religion does, come on, religion does not give anybody life. Prayer meetings do not in and of themselves give anybody life. Reading the Bible does not in and of itself give anybody life. The Holy Spirit does. And it's very possible to spend a life reading the Bible and derive no life out of it. But the Spirit of God can flow through literally anything. Okay? Your Bible, a Hershey's bar, your friend, a slice of pizza from your favorite pizzeria, definitely a Chick-fil-A sandwich. Like the Spirit of God can flow through anything to bring life to you and into you, and it refreshes you and consumes you. And that's the wonderful thing in Acts, in the beginning of Acts, the first one of the first name stories in chapter in Acts, Peter and John are going to the synagogue to pray. Do you remember? There's a lame man who was there. Peter and John heal him, and the Bible says that he got up, that he walked, and that he leapt. Joy. This is astounding because what it means is that the life that came into this man was not just life for his physical limbs. Like, of course, that was true. Like, yes, there's life in his physical limbs. Glory to God, hallelujah. But when you first start walking, you don't leap for joy. Like, it's not like those are completely separate things. Being able to walk and leaping for joy are completely separate things, but they're both life in God, which is what God has done for this man. Okay, our job in life in ministry is not just to bring people to Jesus in a sense of conversion. Yes, we want people to be converted, but what we want is to live a life where all around us, in every direction, everybody that interacts with us experiences the life force of God that is flowing out of us, whether they convert or don't convert. No matter if they're close to you or far from you, it's that like they come into contact with you and things begin to go better for them. There's a deeper sense of purpose in them. Relationships begin to get healed. The things that they're confused about begin to get straightened out. Do you know, like, does that make any sense? Like, it just everything begins to align, and this is a life of God, and it's supposed to begin to just flow out of us. There is this lie that the blessing of the Lord means that everything works out well for you. And the reason that this is a lie is because nobody in the history of the world has ever experienced that everything goes well for them. That's not the point. The blessing of the Lord is that you can take from me, but it'll just more will come. That's the blessing of the Lord. It's an inexhaustible supply of whatever and like everything and anything that man could want or need. An inexhaustible supply of it. So when someone steals from you, like what is there to be upset about? You like just like more will come. Do you know? If you have a machine that prints money and somebody steals some money from you, be like, no worries. We'll just wait another couple of minutes more. We'll come. But if you don't, and you're like, this is all that I have, and somebody takes them from you and be like, oh, I'm so depressed. And it's a different response because it's a different way of understanding the world in which you live and what it means for God to be working and flowing all around you. Do you know? All right. Okay, Isaiah chapter 3. All right. Isaiah chapter 3, God is not really good with Isaiah 1, 2, and 3. The Lord is judging the people of Israel. And one of the things that he takes, one of the things that he says is that all of the leaders, all of the capable leaders of the people of Israel will be driven out, and they will no longer have any capable leaders in the people of Israel. And starting in verse 6, he's describing this, okay? For a man will take hold of his brother in the house of his father, saying, you have a cloak, you will be our leader, and in this heap of ruins shall be under your rule. Okay, and I want to set the framework because I want to encourage you at some point to read Isaiah 1, 2, and 3 because you need the context to really understand what is going on here. And I'm sorry that we're not doing that this morning, but it's okay. So anyways, we find ourselves in the middle of the story. And one of the judgments of God against the people as they were sinning is that all the capable leaders will be deposed and the people will no longer have capable leaders that are capable of leading them. And whenever there's a leadership vacuum in a situation, you can understand that's the judgment of God. But we'll keep going. Okay. We'll keep going. Okay. For a man will take hold of his brother, verse 6, in the house of his father and say, you have a cloak, you will be our leader, and this heap of ruins shall be under your rule. This is really stunning. And what it means is that like there's going to be a day where people will look to anybody that is anything and elevate them to a position of leadership. The church today lives in that place. It's like anybody that can put up a YouTube video like is like, oh, you're a leader. Brother, help us. Okay. You have a cloak, you be our leader. And this heap of ruins will be your rule. In that day, he will speak out saying, and I really love this. In that day, he will speak out saying, I will not be a healer. And in my house, there is neither bread nor cloak. You shall not make me leader of the people. I want to invite you to find some time later to go and really think about what is going on here. This is an oracle of the Lord. The Lord is saying, you're going to be so desperate for good leadership, you're going to make anybody leader. And the guy in his own heart, whether like, but the quality of this guy, what he is missing, and the reason that he is not equipped and should not be a leader is because he says, I will not be a healer. In my house, there's neither bread nor cloak. What and what he's saying is that you may want me to lead you, but I don't have any life to give to you. I can't heal you. I cannot heal you. I cannot fix that which is dead in you. So I can't be a leader. It doesn't matter that I've been appointed by my denomination or raised a lot of money. That's not the point. It's irrelevant, actually. What is relevant is that you're able to bring life, which is the sign of the kingdom to a given situation. I've seen plenty of spiritual leaders in campus ministry that have no life to offer anybody. And they may lead good Bible studies and may be able to raise a lot of money. But you watch the students that work with them 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, people, most of them backslide, are lukewarm, walk in the faith, grow in arrogance rather than grow in the likeness of God. And it's the judgment of the Lord. It's Isaiah 3 and several other places where God explains this judgment, where when a people fall away and they don't seek him, God will give them leaders, and the only leaders he'll give them are those without life in them to give to the people. It's a pretty stunning thing. And when Jesus comes, he explains in Matthew 11 to John the Baptist, says, look around you. The deaf hear, the blind see, the dead are raised, the sick are healed, the lepers are cleansed, those who are poor are provided for. The, those that are lost have the good news preached to them. These are the signs of the kingdom. If you did not believe the heavenly voice, believe the things that you see with your eyes, the things that you hear with your ears, that there is life, life, life pouring out of Jesus talking about himself, his own ministry. Do you know? That is a sign that God is up to something. And that's the mandate. Like, that's the mandate for you and me. Okay? All right. Let me want to say a few things about death, and because this is really, really, really important. What happens over time as you don't experience the life of God is that death begins to come to you. And all of us have some strength, some ability to endure and to resist, but eventually it overtakes you, which is what Deuteronomy 28 is about. It's just not just that it comes to you, but that it overtakes you. Okay. There's a very good friend of Steve Jobs that was describing the way that Steve Jobs died. You know who Steve Jobs is, CEO of Apple, one of the wealthiest men in the world, and he had cancer for 7 years before he died. And Steve Jobs, because of who he was and the position that he was in, had access to, you understand, literally the best medical care that anybody on this earth could have. You understand? If there was medicine to be had, he had it. If there was a doctor to see, he could see them. If there was like, everything, okay? Everything that this world could provide, he had it. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Yes? No? Like, okay, 7 years he had cancer. 7 years he had cancer. And in the end, what happened is that he just gave up. And after 7 years, he got so tired of fighting the cancer that one day I think he was on chemo. I don't know exactly all the details, but one day he called his friends and this is when he resigned from Apple. Many of you were not adults then. I was an adult. And I remember when he actually resigned from Apple, and it shocked the world because people knew he had cancer, but they thought he was in remission and was healthy. But he gotten worse, and he decided to quit after 7 years. And he gave up the medicine. He turned all of it off, and he just gave up. He just gave up. He just gave up. And his friends came to see him. Everybody said goodbye, and he eventually just whittled away and died in the sense that we understand. There are many people that will tell you about him. That, some will say he's not a nice person, blah, 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 but nobody will doubt that he was an incredibly persevering and enduring person. You cannot do the sort of job that he did or do the sort of he had a very interesting career. A lot actually of ups and downs that you can read about. There are lots of histories and biographies of Steve Jobs, lots of people. But there are ups and downs. Like, you cannot doubt he was a very persevering man. You cannot doubt that he was a visionary. You cannot doubt that he had a strength of will that very few people have. There are just things that people can do, and you'd be like, that guy has a strong will. You know, when you look at like an elite mountain climber, for instance, that can get up, Mount Everest, you say what you will about their character, you say what you will about whether you like their beard, like say what you will about, whatever. But you cannot doubt that the guy has a strong will. You don't get up the tallest mountain like without a strong will. And it's the same with the sort of work that he did, rising and falling, building companies, seeing them fall apart, launching products, like driving vision, that like he had a strong, 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 strong will. But what happens to a man is that without the life of God, eventually it overtakes you. And eventually you get to the point where you're just like, I surrender, you know? I surrender. And that's exactly what happened to him. It just it wasn't that he couldn't keep going on the chemo. It wasn't that he couldn't keep going on whatever he had. It wasn't that he couldn't keep going. It's just like after fighting for a very long time, he was like, no more of this. That, that, that thing there that you cannot find anywhere in this world, only in God. Where they strike you down, you get up. They strike you down, you get up again. They strike you down, you get up again. They afflict you, they persecute you, they steal from you, they take from you, they slander you, they rob you, they throw you out of town, as they did to Paul. You get shipwrecked, you get beaten, you get bit by snakes, you get cursed by witches. And it just, do you know? Like you heal for a little bit, but then you come right back up. That, that only comes from God. And the important thing for you and I to understand is that that quality only God has. And you can go to the best therapist, you can take the best medicine, none of it will do anything for you. In Jeremiah chapter 46, Jeremiah, very interesting. If you want to learn about life, you can read Jeremiah because Jeremiah, God talks about healing in life often. It's not one of those things that you would necessarily expect, but often. Okay, Jeremiah 46 um, is a prophecy against Egypt. But in verse 11, it says this: Go up to Gilead and take balm, O virgin daughter of Egypt. In vain you have used many medicines. There is no healing for you. And it's a very interesting, it's a very interesting verse because God is talking to them about the way that the world deals with the things that the world is afflicted with, where things that we think we have our own answers. Do you know? And even lots of Christian doctors are like, oh yeah, we can solve this, we can solve that. There is no natural medicine that can cure you of anything. It can deal with your symptoms only. But it does not cure you because death comes from something that is different than what any doctor can find or manifest. This is why. This is why you can find a person with cancer. You can cut out the entire tumor. You can test the body to make sure that there's no more tumor left. And in a few years, it'll be right back. And the reason is because these are not matters of biology. And I understand that some of you spend a lot of time being taught that it's a matter of biology. It's not a matter of biology. There's life and there's death in a totally different sense that is manifesting. And here, God is saying exactly that. Janet, put it back up, please. There is God is saying that in this sense that we need to understand. This is not just about sickness. It's about sort of everything in life. Nevertheless, sickness is for many people the way that you understand it most clearly, right? In vain, you have used many medicines. There is no healing for you. And you know what God is saying? God is saying is that it doesn't really matter where in the world you go to look for solutions that men have cooked up. It doesn't matter what new therapy, what experimental thing. It cannot actually give you life. You can try everything, you can spend all of your money, you can go to the end of the world, you can do all, but life belongs only to God. Life belongs only to God. And know that that's really challenging to understand, especially if you're in life science. You're like, what am I doing here then? Like, I had the same question. Like, but I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Y'all be blessed. But in vain, you have used many medicines, and there is no healing for you. And what God is saying here is that life belongs only to Him, and that's awesome because you and I can make a career of doling it out. Do you know? Praise God. If you want to, if you want to be an elite soldier for the U.S. military, or frankly for any military, one of the things that they do is that they take you to the point of death and they rescue you. And it's pretty amazing. There's a school, there's a property off the Florida Keys where they train Navy SEALs. And I wouldn't recommend anybody be a Navy SEAL. I think it's a pretty hard career. But people talk about the experience of being trained there. And one of the first things they do is they take you to the point of drowning, and you're underwater longer than, and they take you to the point, and then they bring you back up. And do you know? and rescue you. And it's a very interesting thing because it's when you get to that point and then you experience what that feels like and then you come back from it, that somehow that it just prepares you for doing really, really, really extreme things. Does that make sense? Hopefully. In God, when the Lord has called you, He often calls us and brings us into these things where, like Paul, he allows you to be struck. I know that, this is not the sort of blessing and well being message that people sometimes hear. But when God wants you to know that there is a life in you that is inexhaustible and can never be destroyed, one of the things he allows is actually to you for you to experience the life that is in you is greater than the persecution, than the than the opposition, than the challenges, than the burdens, than everything that you will ever face, and he'll allow you to experience that hopefully really early in your life. And that way, when you realize that, like, you can lose all of your money and totally be fine. You can lose all of your reputation and be totally fine. You can lose all of your whatever, and be totally fine. You can lose your job. You can lose this. You can lose that. You can lose this open door. You can lose that. You can, and that you will survive these things. What happens is that it actually teaches you to place your faith in God rather than the preservation of the things that you have. Why? Because if you don't place your faith in God, then you're never going to actually live out of that the life of God. If you don't live out of the life of God, there's nothing that you're going to be able to share with other people. And this is something that you have to experience and feel it and understand it and really dig into it. God wants you to show you and me, He wants to show us that there is nothing that anybody can take from us that can rob us of the life that we have in Him. That's really important. There's nothing that should be able to strike you down. There's nothing that should be able to empty your heart of hope. There's nothing that should be able to take your joy away from you. There's nothing that should be able to make you anxious. There's nothing that should be able to confuse you or frustrate you or any of these things. And why? It's not because there's not a single moment that you're like, whoa, what's going on? You experience that. But what happens is that you spend time in God and then it's like you just recharge and you're like right back to where you are. Why? Because the river of life is flowing in you and all around you. And you have to have that as a Christian. Otherwise, the next thing you suffer, you're just going to die from. The amazing testimony about Job, and actually, if you read Job, I know it's a long read, and I know it's a long read, but Job often meditates on healing in life, and because he's going through it. But what is amazing about Job is that in sequence, that the enemy was allowed to take out of Job everything in his life that you would normally think that would give a man joy, that would give a man hope, that would give a man fulfillment, that a man would think is his life, including all of his property, all of his possessions, all of his sons and daughters, his family, like everything is gone. And all that he's left with is his wife, who encourages him to just walk away from God. Do you remember? You remember that? And what is incredible about Job is that through it all, Job there's something in Job that refuses to bow and refuses to die. There's something in Job that says, yeah, all of that's gone. Yeah, and I don't understand it, and I don't know what it is or why it's happened. And everybody has explanations, X, Y, and Z. But what we see in Job is that there's something in Job that stays alive. At the end of the story, when God shows up, you realize that actually Job's theology is not altogether there. Like, God's not like, oh, yeah, Job, you're right about everything. No. Like, everybody, all four of the guys are wrong about everything. They're not, God doesn't agree with any of them. But it's not theology. But there's something in Job that just would, like, it just grabs a hold of God and stays. This is not stubbornness. Stubbornness is manufactured by men. Stubbornness will eventually be overcome. We're not talking about stubbornness. That's a different thing. But there's something in God that just renews you over and over and over and over again. No, I want to be honest. Like, we've been doing this ministry. I've been doing it since 2008 on campus when I first got to campus. And so 2008, how many? I can't subtract. 17 years. All right. 17 years I've been doing this. And I mean, you can see the fruit, right? It's like, okay. None. It's just like just it's like dust. There's no but I'm gonna be honest with you. Every day I get up, I am no less in fact, I would say more. I have more hope now than I did when I was a freshman on campus. But I've seen many freshmen come in to a university campus and be like, yeah, we're gonna change this campus, we're gonna see revival. A year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later. And the 4 years later, they leave, never to look back. 17 years later, I have no less hope than I did when I first began. No, no, more. Like, I'm more convinced now than I ever have that God will move, that God will do what he's going to do, that God himself will be glorified, will reveal his power, that we will see it, that we will see it. If not us, then our children. If not them, then their children. That like, and it cannot explain to you why, because it's absolutely not because of success. It's not because it says there's something more, and it's not me. Like I'm not that. Like I'm not particular. It's not me, and it's not like oh well, you're just not an emotional person. I am. Like it's not, no, no, it's not me. I don't know how to explain it to you. Like I don't know how to explain it to you. I don't force it. I don't try to make it. I don't just like there's none of that. It's just I don't know. It's just there, and you can't convince me that it's not. There's no amount of there's no. It just it all. If you all left, I'd still be doing this. I think, like, I don't know, God could test me there too. But God he's emptied our ministry several times. Like, it's not like the like 0 students. Like, that we've seen that several times. This is not like that's happened. And it'll be like, "Okay, God, should we walk away? Should we?" There's something I cannot explain. I can't explain it. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know because I see other people that are more righteous, that are more anointed, that are more could draw bigger crowds, could preach better messages, have seen God, have seen Jesus, seen angels, have seen blah 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 blah, and like 18 months later they're gone. I I don't know how to explain it except to say that you need to have it because God if you will find that in him, if you will find the strength of his perseverance and the strength of his joy and the strength of his hope, then like you can set your hand to do whatever it is you want. And in time, it will manifest. The mandate that we have, and I just feel a renewed to go after this. There's so much brokenness, depression, despondency, hopelessness, spiritual death, mental confusion in every direction. Like it is now a rarity to find young people that are mentally well. It's not like given at all. It is a total rarity to find young people that are mentally well. They're drowned by their surroundings, by their life circumstances, by the classes they feel like they have to take, the job they feel like they have to do, the money they feel like they have to make, by their expectations, or by religion. So many young people are drowned by religion. There are more young people, I think, Christian young people, that are drowning in self condemnation about whatever sin they have, that are actually drowning in their sins. And this is a stunning, stunning, stunning fact to me that over time, what I've seen is like lust is a great example, right? Like lots of young people stuck in pornography. There are far more people that are drowning in the self condemnation that comes from a struggle with pornography than there are drowning in the sin of pornography. Like it's stunning that like this is the world we live in. And it is because we build up a religious system of people like what it says in Isaiah chapter 3, where the guy says, it's like, you have a cloak, you be our leader. Like, it's like, you have a business card that says, whatever, ministry, you be our leader. And the man, if he were honest, would say, am not a healer. I can't heal you. Therefore, I can't lead. You know who can heal? Jesus. And all those that he sends and all those commissioned by him. And the first thing that they do when they get on the scene, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. How will you know? It's not because I'm leading you to my Bible study, which is better than their Bible study. It's not a competition of Bible studies. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Awesome. Who's sick? Who's depressed? Who's anxious? Who's confused? Who wants to commit suicide? And the life of the kingdom flows into all those situations. Years ago, I read a book, which was just a really interesting book for me. Oh, I gotta go. for for me, I say this and then I'll close. About a writer whose husband decided to do physician-assisted suicide, which is not legal in this country, I believe, but is legal in Switzerland and other places in the world. And it's a very, very interesting thing. The movie's created about it. It's a whole movement, actually, physician suicide. And in his case, what happened is that there was a degenerative disease that was passed down in his family line that was very consistent. And just because of its consistency and its rage, and he knew what happened to his father and his grandfather and his great grandfather and the way they lived and the way they suffered at the end of their life, he said, I don't want any of that. And so while he was still healthy and strong, he decided that he wanted to live out his life being healthy and strong where he was wanted to enjoy that, and he didn't want to do the end of life thing, and so he would go and commit suicide. Do you guys do you guys know what this is? Okay, awesome. Or most people are like, okay, it's very interesting. And so it was a very interesting book. Um, because actually, I really enjoy, books, not like this in particular, but just books of this, type in general where, people who are not believers, are going through some sort of life experience. One of the writers of the New York Times, who, he used to be the restaurant critic of the New York Times, and I read a lot of his reviews back in the day when I cared about food. Um, he, eventually, went blind or, like, mostly blind and wrote a book about it, and, I think it's called The Beauty of Twilight, and, or, something of that variety. He wrote a book about it and about, slowly losing his sight and the experience of that. And, so I actually really, really enjoy stories like this, not because they're obviously not uplifting, but because, uh, frankly, I don't know what it feels like to not have hope in Jesus. I've grown up in this, like, my whole life, as many of you have. Like, I've never known a day where, uh, I didn't believe that he could fix anything, and if it weren't fixed, then that we go to heaven and it'd be fixed there, right? Like, it just never. But what is really interesting is trying to get into the mind of people that don't have that hope and seeing how they live, seeing the way they behave, and seeing what kind of solutions they run to. And, um, I just remember, the last moments of his life where, they flew off from JFK to Switzerland to do this, and, we're talking about sort of, the last steak that he would eat and the last plane ride that he would go on and the last chocolate that he would, and touring the city for a few days before going in to do this procedure, and he did, and he ended up committing suicide. And, so interesting. It is so interesting that for a world without life, the best thing that you could do is to manage your decline, is to manage your own death. There are startups these days that are geared to making you live longer. None of them will ever work because life is not in your DNA. Life is somewhere else. There are startups these days that believe that they can cure all human disease and all this stuff. That cannot happen because life is not in this. Life is an energy that comes from somewhere else. If you've ever been in prayer or in a time, I feel it now. Um, um, when the Holy Spirit just comes upon you, there is an energy that comes, that you can't explain, but you know that that is the thing that keeps you alive. Do you know? It feels like water rushing out of a faucet, and there's just like something like rushes upon you, and you know that that is the thing that keeps you breathing in together, even though you can't. There's nothing of that you can. Do you know? It's not in here. There's something else, and that you and I are sent to bring that into the world. The competition is not for better Bible study. The competition is not for a better worship song. The competition is not for better food. The competition is not for nicer whatever. The competition is not for any of that. The calling is to, like Jesus, carry life in all of its dimensions everywhere, everywhere. And our failing is in the prioritization of building up ministries, companies, calling, whatever, all that garbage. Like rather than doing all the essential things that God has asked us to do. And I feel just in this season as we're praying, we're fasting, that there is a call to. I love fasting because sometimes, in fasting, there's some days where you're just like, I feel so weak. And all of a sudden, it's just like strength will come. And you know, it's like it's awesome. And that experience, that dynamic, I feel a calling, a burden to just press into this more in prayer, because the need is all around you in every direction. Just because there's not that much, many wheelchairs, just because there's not that much leprosy, don't think that there's life wherever you go. You know that there is not. You know that there is not. You know, in reading Deuteronomy 28, it says, the sky above you will be bronze, the earth beneath you will be iron. You know? And that is exactly your experience spiritually when you go to any of the campuses that we've been to. Like, I love praying, but you can go to a campus and you pray, you're like, I don't really love praying. Because like, this is terrible. It's like, there's no, it's like, have you ever looked at like a park, like something that's entirely made of concrete with no, like a parking garage, where it's like all concrete in every direction and be like, wow, this is so awesome. No, it's terrible. It's ugly. It's like there's no depth. It's all depth, and it's amazing. Like people can't create life. It's like even in office buildings, they use wood and stone and things that God has created to give more warmth to it. Like a parking garage, you're never like, oh, this is so awesome. This is full of life. Of course it's not. You're like, let me get out of here literally as quickly as I can. And so you're on a campus or you're like in a company or you're like in the government, you're somewhere and you're like, the heavens are bronze, the earth is iron. It's like, this is totally dead. This is all dead. You know, on campus, it's like, this is all dead. Exactly right. You are the plant that God has called to sit there, that everybody could look at and be like, wow, life. Wherever you are called to, whatever you do, whatever team that you're on, whatever lab you're in, whatever class you're not there to get your grades good, to get your bonus. Like, that's not the point. God could feed you out of the sky. Do not ever be confused about where your provision comes from. It does not come from whoever gives you your paycheck. God can feed you out of the sky. You are there because the life of God flows in if you are willing to allow it to. If you will humble yourself to obey, to grab a hold of it, the life of God flows out of you. And that's what we offer to the world. We not rest and we not grow content until everybody around us experiences life the way that everybody experienced life around Jesus, whatever that means for them. That's a calling. That's a mandate. You don't give up. You don't, and you just keep, keep going. You keep going. If you don't feel like you living in that, uh, there's something in your life that God has called you to obedience that you're not living in yet. Get there, and you'll experience that life of God flowing in you. And you know what? That's what He is. That's what He desires for you. Today, if you go around the church, there are a lot of churches with a lot of people, with a great band, very loud, $50,000 mixer, $100,000 speakers, surround system, lights. 20% of the church is cancer. 30% of the church struggling with their jobs, lots of divorce in the church. And we think that all of that stuff, whitewashed walls, covers up the death that actually exists. It doesn't. It doesn't. Do you understand? It doesn't. That's not the kingdom. The kingdom is not in the fluff of that stuff. The kingdom is in the joy. The kingdom is in the hope. The kingdom is in the prosperity. The kingdom is in the sharing. The kingdom is in the kindness. The kingdom is in all of that that only comes from God and comes from nowhere else. And conveniently, that's exactly what God has asked us to do. So let's stand, let's pray. Sydney, will you come, please?